Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Excellent. I would like to call the regular board meeting of the Community College District to order uh, for the governing board meeting of September 27th, 2016. Before we begin, I would like to ask Scottsdale Community College student Carrie Calhoun to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Calhoun, very, very much. Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. McGrath? Present. Mr. Heath? Present. Mrs. Haber?
Mrs. Haber?
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Sarr?
Here.
Mrs. Livingston?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Here. Ms. Smith. Substitutions. Thank you. The substitutions for today are Ms. Barb Basil for Vice Chancellor LaCoya Shelton Johnson, Miguel Hernandez for Vice Chancellor Ed Kelty, Willa Morgan for as legal counsel
For Maggie McConnell.
for Maggie. Todd Simmons,
Right here.
right here, for Chris Bustamante. Mary Lou Mosley for Paul Dale. And that, I believe, completes the substitutions for the day. Student life reports, Scottsdale Community College.
President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Jen Cito, and in addition to being the Assistant Director for the Center for Civic and Global Engagement at Scottsdale Community College, I also serve as the advisor for our Council of Student Leaders. Today I have the majority of my CSLers, which is a large group today, here to present to you the activities and events that we have had going on and will have going on. I'm going to let my chair share a lot of what we have going.
Hello, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Itzel Barrios Kerr, and I serve as chair of the Student Council at Scottsdale Community College. Being part of the Council of Student Leaders, that is also known as CSL, has been a good way for me to have many opportunities to stay civically engaged. Just this past June, I was able to attend and represent SEC Center for Civic and Global Engagement, as well as the Council of Student Leaders and the 2016 Civic Learning and Democratic Engagement Conference in Indianapolis. Being exposed to this type of environment full of professionals and students whose main goal is to immerse students in civic learning and democratic engagement was and has been a great and key resource for me as CSL chair, as well as the Center for Civic and Global Engagement and Scottsdale Community Campus as a whole. Another one of my duties as chair is to oversee the Civic Engagement Committee. And our first event that we had was the celebration of Constitution Day. Our goal was to educate students and the student body on the United States Constitution, as well that we collaborated with the Latino Student Association and Mi Familia Vota to promote the importance of voting. We are really proud to say that Scottsdale Community College offers many civic engagement opportunities and events. Some some examples of some events that we have coming up are the Road to the White House, which is a 1 hour informative discussion on the process we have in America to elect our president. We also have a panel discussion titled Clinton versus Trump, the election we've all been waiting for, and a Know Your Props poster session presented by CSL. Finally, in mid-October, we are collaborating. We're honored to collaborate with the ASU's Civil Dialogue Institute for Civil Dialogue to host a presidential debate watch as well as a civil dialogue. Another great tool CSL has previously utilized is our very popular Democracy Wall, and it has in the past and will continue to serve students and allow them to voice their opinions on certain topics, ranging all the way from national policy issues to longstanding American traditions. Of course, the Council of Student Leaders has many more duties than just to promote civic engagement. Global awareness is a huge part of our mission. It is really important for us to create an environment that helps students appreciate global integration and how to navigate this globalized world that we live in successfully. Our Global Awareness Committee, that is overseen by our Vice Chair, Carrie Calhoun, is responsible for and in the process of planning our traditional International Education Week, as well as collaborating in other SEC events such as Genocide Awareness Week and the In Thing. In addition to that, we are really excited that our homecoming team for this school year is already around the world, which has allowed us, of course, to incorporate global awareness into the events that we have going on for our homecoming kickoff. And in addition to enriching our educational experience at SCC, we also appreciate and value the importance of school spirit. We consider it a key factor to create unity and participation in our campus, which is why our Special Events Committee, run by co-managers Chris-Ann Tires and Mio Maketla, is putting their best effort to create events that will make us have a homecoming that is very exciting and enjoyable for anyone that wishes to participate. We also have great news regarding our SEC clubs. In the past 2 semesters, we approved 3 new clubs. One of them is the Edit Room, the SEC Screenwriting Club, and we reactivated the Sustainability Club, which was formerly known as the Environmental Club. These clubs have really allowed students to find a space that caters to their specific educational needs, as well as it has provided them the opportunity to grow professionally. We couldn't be more proud of all of the activities that our clubs have to offer to our student body. Some of them are, of course, the annual Women Rising Conference. Collegiateca has their industry visits and their competitions. The Male Empowerment Network has an annual conference as well. We take part in the Phoenix AIDS Walk, and there are many more events that enrich our educational experience. I could go on forever. I cannot go on, however, with this report without introducing you to this amazing group of student leaders that I am really fortunate to be a part of. Over the years, CSL has been growing and growing. This is our biggest group yet. We are a group of 21 very diverse students, and all these beautiful people here, plus a few that are missing. And our ages range all the way from 18 years old to 33 years old. And we have backgrounds ranging from Native American to European, Hispanic. We are really proud to have 2 returning students who were recipients of the Chancellor's Civic Leadership Medallion, 4 students that are part of the Community College Initiative Program, and international students studying here from Mexico, Germany, South Africa, Dominican Republic, and Cote d'Ivoire. I could not be more excited to be part of this amazing group. And finally, we would all like to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share with you a little bit about SCC's activities and the plans of the Council of Student Leaders for this upcoming school year. And I could not finish without inviting you all to our homecoming game on Saturday 29th, and to help us support and cheer for the amazing Fighting Artichokes. Thank you. And please feel free to ask any questions if you have any.
Thank you very, very much. Questions? Ms. Livingston?
What a wonderful presentation. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming this evening and sharing it with us. I have one question. How did Artie get around the world?
You know, it's funny. We actually, I don't know if you probably know about the college, community college initiative program. We gave all the students that were part of the program last year, we gave them a small Artie plushie to take with them. And so they have to send us a photo back in their hometown of Artie doing something or playing around. So that's how we got him around the world.
Artie Plushie.
He needs two
That's a
seats
new
on an
one.
airplane. He's pretty big.
Mr. Sarr?
So the question that everybody's asking is, what does a seat on the 50-yard line Saturday night cost you?
It's $5 unless you're a student and have your student ID. Or if you wear your SEC homecoming shirt, then you get in free.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would like to let the rest of my student council to introduce themselves, if you guys allow me to. Yes,
Let's ask him to briskly do that.
Vice Chair Kerry Calhoun.
We can't hear you.
I'm the Vice Chair. I'm Kerry Calhoun.
Come on up to the microphone.
My name is Diego, and I'm a law enforcement student.
Hi everybody, my name is Alejandra Gomez and I'm a student at large.
My name is Khotato Patile Mohale and I'm from South Africa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Neo Maketla, and I'm from South Africa as well. Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Jess Eduardo Moreno, and I am a student at large.
Hello, my name is Joseph Ropp, and I am also a student at large.
Hi, my name is Kira Messing. I'm also a student at large.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arlene de los Santos, and I'm a student at large.
Hello everybody, my name is Helen Riahi and I am also a student at large.
My name is Konstantin Borges. I'm from Germany and I'm a student at large too.
My name is Brianna Stabler. I'm the Secretary of the Council of Student Leaders.
My name is Marcus Palacios and I'm a student at large.
My name is Chris Antires and I am Special Events Co-Manager.
Thank you.
Ms. Barrios, thank you very much, and thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. Before I go on, let me do one small chore. College reports, Dr. Gonzalez. You're not where you're supposed to be. You're confusing us.
I apologize.
That's
Mr.
quite
Gutierrez,
all right.
May I approach the podium, please?
Proceed.
Thank you. Come on up. Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the governing board, CEC, and guests. We thank you for this opportunity tonight to present to you the Makerspace. We don't have an official name. This is what we've been calling it as we've been discussing it and going from idea to fruition.
Dr. Gonzalez,
yes,
let me
sir.
interrupt you if I may, just for
Sure.
1 second. And that is to explain to the board, this was an item that we discussed in our agenda session, and it was discussed to, it was, at the time, there was no consensus on how to go forward with that. It is being presented today as simply a presentation. It is not before you as an action item. I want to stress that the presentation today is important so that we learn more about the Makerspace, but it is not before us this evening as an action item. Proceed.
Thank you for the clarification, President Gutierrez. That's right. So this is everything you ever wanted to know about a makerspace, but maybe we're afraid to ask. So behind
Mrs. McGrath is afraid of nothing.
Okay, so behind me I have Kristen Goopser and I have Tony Asti. Kristen is my Director of External Affairs and is also Assistant to Chancellor in transition at the moment. And Tony Asti is my Vice President of Administrative Services. They are here to, Kristen will actually give the presentation once I tee this up for her. And Tony is here for backup and has money falling out of his pockets in case you have any questions related to money. They're pennies. So we're here today to share a project that responds to a challenge that has been laid out, starting from the very top, from you as our governing board, to be entrepreneurial, to be innovative, and to find ways to increase enrollments, to find ways to increase interest in our district, to find ways to increase opportunities for entrepreneurial venture that could perhaps lead to revenues for our college. And this is something that at Gateway we pride ourselves on. So this is an effort to do that. And in the session that took place before this board meeting, I had noticed that one of the 3 strategic commitments that this board will adopt once it approves that strategic plan is to be innovative among institutions of higher education. We believe that this makerspace and the creation of a makerspace in the downtown Phoenix area will help in that endeavor by placing the Maricopa District on the map. And another strategic commitment that this board would commit to is being a driving force for economic and workforce development in the state of Arizona. We think that this makerspace will be one of the pistons in the engine that drives economic and workforce development. So this will be a very thorough presentation in an attempt to answer any question that you might have related to the makerspace. But of course, you're welcome to ask us anything throughout the presentation and of course afterwards. So I now turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to explain and share more about this exciting project tonight. I'd like to start first by talking about what exactly is a makerspace. Think of a makerspace as a learning environment rich with possibilities. It's a place where people come to gather, to create, to invent, and to learn. They're essentially community centers with a wide variety of tools. They are spaces that are unique in exactly how they're arranged to fit the purposes of each community. They have machines, they have software, they have electronics, crafts, any type of hardware and software supplies you can imagine. The maker movement nationally, as well as the physical makerspace, is somewhat of a new concept that is gaining momentum across the country. So it is still a great time for the community college district and the Maricopa district to get involved and then establish a very signature makerspace, as the momentum is just beginning. There is one successful, very successful makerspace that exists currently, and it is Tech Shop. It's a for-profit entity that is in Chandler. And in the few years that Tech Shop has been in existence, they are already supporting the ventures of over 40 small businesses and working with Fortune 500 companies, including Intel. So the vision for what is this Maricopa Makerspace going to be? And as you can see, it's quite exciting and quite complex. But first and foremost, it has been developed as a cost-neutral enterprise. There is a revenue model that has been established to support the space that includes fee-based access similar to a gym membership, retail services, sponsorship opportunities, one-time workshops and classes, special events, and a variety of other mechanisms for revenue generation. It's also a cross-disciplinary learning lab. This is very exciting for students within our colleges because what it does is it takes what we have grown up to know as I go to class and I walk next door to my lab that has been designed specifically for my program, and it really blows that apart. And it gives students to take the same theoretical concepts that they are learning in the classroom and the ability to apply those concepts through hands-on application no matter what discipline they're studying. The example I like to use is a philosophy class that we were offering at Gateway in a past spring semester. One of our adjunct faculty members was teaching a logic class in the philosophy prefix and decided that the capstone project for that class was going to be developing a board game, getting from start to finish. And what the students did was they 3D printed their game pieces. So really any discipline that you can think of, from the engineering to English to sociology, there's a place for those students in the Makerspace. It's also a community innovation hub. It's a place for the public to come, to use tools and equipment that they otherwise wouldn't have their hands on in a very affordable way. It's a place for our retired faculty and others to continue to share their expertise by coming down to the space and teaching in the space. And it's a mechanism to drive new academic program growth by providing the resources and the tools in a centralized manner that we may not be able to afford on all of our college campuses. It is also a recruitment and retention tool. It's an ongoing marketing strategy to build that pipeline of students from the very young all the way up to those who continue through their lifelong learning journey. Lastly, it's a STEAM-focused initiative. What STEAM is doing is really connecting the arts to all of the STEM professions that are pretty much top of mind these days. This Makerspace will be the only significant STEAM-based project in the state of Arizona. If you look at the map, the Rhode Island Institute of Design has done the most research with STEM across the country. And if you look at the map, you can see that there is not a significant STEAM-based project within the state of Arizona. So there's a great opportunity for the Community College District not only to serve our students here, but to have a statewide and national draw. Our partners in this space, we're very excited to have an anchor tenant and an anchor partner in ASU, specifically their Herberger College. They have contributed $750,000 toward the project for the initial equipment investment, and we are negotiating with them right now annual operating support as part of that agreement. APS has come on board as a sponsor. They're an in-kind sponsor supporting the initial electrical infrastructure of the space. The City of Phoenix has contributed $250,000 to the startup of the project. And we recently have received a $3 million matching grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce, EDA, to invest in this effort. Here, this is a snapshot of some of the other community organizations and community partners that we have solidified as we put the vision for the space together. Some of these are funding partners that you saw on the previous slide. Others are providing in-kind support. Some of them have committed to providing corporate memberships and sending their employees down to the space. And others are helping us to market the project through their membership base. Now, I'm not going to read all of these, but I do want to go through and highlight some specific statements. These are some of the testimonials that have come about as we've been talking about this project in the community and leveraging it through our great network that we have. The first statement is from Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton. And one of the things that he has said specifically is that this is the latest example of the innovation that can come about from partnerships across various sectors. Phoenix Councilwoman Kate Gallego states that this project is a win for students, for educators, for entrepreneurs, for small business, for our downtown, and ultimately for our entire community. Rich Stanley, the Senior Vice President and University Planner at ASU, says that this space allows both universities to grow programs that focus on the development of STEAM-based initiatives. By supporting this project and partnering with Maricopa, ASU is able to develop multidisciplinary programs that connect faculty-led projects to partner organizations in the community. Todd Sanders, the president and CEO of the Phoenix Chamber, says that at a time when 80% of new jobs in our community are created by existing Arizona businesses, Makerspace is an indispensable economic development asset for our state. Brian Cassidy, who's an architect in downtown, says the advantages to restoring these buildings are high and the qualities of the space that can be produced in a vital part of the city are enormous. And lastly, Billy Shields, a development partner in the new Lurs City Center in downtown Phoenix, says The timing could not be better for this project. So what are we exactly talking about in our space? This is a picture of it today. It's going to be more beautiful when we're done with it. This is the building that is on the southeast corner of 6th Avenue and Van Buren. It is 22,500 square feet of shell warehouse space. So why this building in this location and not on one of our campuses? Really, the model that we have put together is one in which serves not only our community college students in the most centrally way we know how within such a large district, it also solidifies our partnership with ASU and the downtown campus. It is in close proximity to the warehouse district. It's in close proximity to Roosevelt Row. And it will either be in or right on the edge of Mayor Stanton's new innovation district that he has developed for downtown. This will give us a true signature site in downtown Phoenix. We have downtown campuses from several of our colleges, but not a signature project that is truly in downtown between the sevens. So I'm going to try to use the fancy laser pointer here and show you the aerial view of the space. This is the project. This is Grand Avenue and all the redevelopment that is happening along Grand Avenue. All of this right here is over 400 new housing units that are currently under construction. Over here is ASU. All of this starts ASU as well as the light rail. Here is all of the access to parking. There are over 1,700 spaces in this parking structure, and over 510 to be exact, have been designated to support the users of the Makerspace project. So once you get inside the doors, what are you going to see? We're going to see a variety of things. This is just intended to be a snapshot that emphasizes the connection between the arts and STEM in terms of physical equipment that you'd be able to access in this space. We're also going to be leveraging some of our existing resources, such as the Maricopa Skills Center that is nearby, as well as the CEI, that will just be a light rail ride down to where the CEI is located on the Gateway campus, so that we are not duplicating things such as 3D printing that can be offered at a small scale in the Makerspace and a very large scale at one of our campuses down the street. There are also the opportunity, because of its downtown location, to really make this space that community and entrepreneurial hub. There are opportunities that were heard as we've been putting the vision for this project together, both internally and externally, for these types of complementary opportunities to bring people into the space and to keep them there while they're there. So why do this? Why get into this? Whole slew of reasons, and hopefully I'm starting to see it, the excitement just burning inside, because it is very exciting. But there are a lot of reasons why to do this. Going back again to really that focal point and signature site for the Maricopa Community Colleges in downtown Phoenix. There's also a lot of external demand out there. Hopefully you got a snapshot of that, and I will address more of it later, discussing the community meetings and a community survey that was done. Again, going back to enrollment and program growth. This is a marketing effort that can continue to go on and on and on, really building that pipeline of students, retaining the students we have by providing them access to the space, and continuing that lifelong learning journey. It's also a wonderful strategy for resource sharing. If we can be moving more of our students from the colleges down into the space, there are opportunities there for us to increase the life of the equipment that's on our campuses by sharing some of that usage and spreading out some of the the number of people and the number of users on our equipment on an everyday basis. This is also an initiative that supports STEM education at every level. It supports our district values. It has the statewide and national draw. It's the response to the challenge that's been laid out before us for many years now in terms of being more entrepreneurial and innovative as a district, and the variety of revenue opportunities that you see that will support the cost-neutral possible revenue generation that comes from the project. A community survey was conducted, and we're getting ready to reconduct this survey. The essence for this was, if we build it, will they come? And it was a very simple 4-question survey that you see here, and really the answer was yes. people want this. Our students want it. We surveyed over 100 community members, as well as students both at Gateway and the Maricopa Skills Center. For the initial survey, we hope to take that beyond Gateway for this next round when we get closer to making the doors open. But people do want this, and they're willing to pay to come. Almost 90% said they're somewhat or very likely to use the space. This project has also been vetted internally through several of our leadership groups, through student groups, through many of our leadership councils, on some of our college campuses specifically with faculty interest. So you can see the snapshot there. That's the big picture. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Mr. Sarr?
This is an outstanding program. Makerspaces have been around for a while around the country, and I've heard about a number of them at different conferences I've been to, especially when you talk about workforce development and so forth and innovation. We've got the one in Tempe that's a private entity, but doing well. And I know that we have some of our students that actually have gone over there and used their facilities. My only concern, and it goes back 4 or 5 years ago when this building came up with the board in terms of selling it. It was a gift to us to begin with, so we have nothing in it. The problem is we couldn't sell it. It's got some. It was built way before the lead paint thing and the you name it. It's got all kinds of issues with it. So I think we need to spend more time on the actual location and whether this is the right facility for this. But I concur totally that it's a need. We just have to make sure that we have the right location for it. And I'm not so sure in my mind, based on our discussions that we had 4 or 5 years ago, that this is a good in our long-term interest, but we can certainly have that discussion.
Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Guster, how do you spell your last name?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. President, members of the board, it's Gubser.
Thank you. I had it entirely wrong.
I married into it.
You mean your parents wouldn't have chosen it either?
Sorry.
How many parking spaces does this successful Makerspace in Chandler have? Is it in a place surrounded with parking, or is it?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, I will look to one of my colleagues to confirm the exact number of spaces. It is in a shared facility with ASU as well in East Chandler. About 150 spots.
I agree with Mr. Sarr. I cannot imagine people going down to use this facility because there is absolutely no parking right there. How far would you have to walk to get from this parking garage to the building, and how much will these parking spaces cost? You say they're set aside, but I doubt if they're paid for, and if they're paid for, we definitely can't afford it. And this doesn't look to me like this is worth $6 million. There's got to be a better place. So could you show me on the map how long a walk it is? How many blocks?
Yes, Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. It's right across the street. So this is the Makerspace right here. This is a church, and the church owns the parking lot right here. We're also next door to a photography studio and a screen printer who have been in the space for well over a decade, both of them. So we've already talked to the church. The church allows use of their parking space when there isn't a large service going on. And then the parking structure is right here. So it's across the street in Caddy Corner. And we're working with the city on making sure that we have access to those 510 spaces.
Mr. Gutierrez, Ms. Gubser? How do you pronounce that?
That's correct.
Okay. How many blocks are you going to have to walk? You can't walk. Can you walk across the church parking lot and in a back door through the alley, or is there an alley? Or
yeah, there is. So Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, there are. This will be the front entrance. This is Van Buren. There will be a loading zone so that people can come, and if they want to, drop stuff off and then go park their car, they can do that. There are also 3 garage-style doors going into each of the bays, and this alleyway here is fully accessible. That does not belong to the church.
So how many blocks do we have to walk there?
You're just going across the parking lot right here.
It looks like
One.
it's to the parking garage looks like it's to the east of the building.
Yeah, it's right here.
So that's
a block.
2 or 3 blocks you're going to walk.
No.
It's about a block and a half, I would say. They're little blocks, though.
Yes. How much will it cost for the parking?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, that is part of our agreement with the city. It has yet to be determined. Part of our partnership with them was the agreement to have access to the parking. We've not gotten that far in the conversation to know if there is a cost to it.
Mr. President, Ms. Goopser, I cannot imagine the city giving away parking spaces. Does anyone know, any of you know how much it costs to use a parking space in downtown Phoenix? Seems to me it's quite a bit an hour, and they charge by the hour. And you really don't think the city's going to give them to you for free, do you?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, that has been the discussion.
Free?
That has been the discussion.
Holy Toledo.
Ms. McGrath.
Mr. President, Ms. Goopser, have you looked at any other spaces? You mentioned that you were close to Roosevelt Row. As far as I recall, Roosevelt Row is closer to 7th Ave and Roosevelt, and that is way more than half a mile. It's 3/4 to perhaps a mile by the time you traipse up to Roosevelt and then over to 7th Street.
President Gutierrez, Mrs. McGrath, members of the board, we have certainly looked at additional sites in that entire region. When it was brought to our attention that the district owned a Stauffer warehouse, we became very interested because that was going to save us the initial cost of purchasing either bare land or another shell. And going back to Mr. Sarr's question earlier about the status of the building, we did bring in engineers to look at that, and they did provide us with information that supports that this is a building that could be rehabbed safely and be a well-constructed building. The bones themselves are great. Roofing structure, sure, that needs some work. The interior, it's an absolute empty shell. But there have been other buildings that, according to the engineers that we brought on, that were in worse shape than what we're working with there. And we got to tour some of those buildings, and you would never know. They're absolutely beautiful.
Ms. McGrath.
Mr. President, Ms. Goopser, how much can you charge for the use of this space? You mentioned that the space in Chandler is charging a fee. What kind of fee can you charge, and how long will it take you to pay back the $6 million that it's going to take to get the building up, and then the $750,000 a year to operate it?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, we are looking at a monthly membership cost for a member from our community who wants to come in and use the space at $65. We will retest that fee through an additional community survey and some other market research as we get closer to the opening of the space. But the preliminary research we did showed that the community supports a membership between $50 and $75. The grant money, the $3 million in grant money is matching funds. The initial, the $6 million budget is $4 million of that is leveraged from external resources. What we have figured is that based on the capacity of the space, which can be about 2,500 members a year is what the physical capacity of the space is, that with that kind of capacity, we could be generating significant dollars, well over $1 million, to support the operations of the space.
Ms. McGrath.
At full capacity.
Mr. President.
You're next, Ms. Gray.
Mr. President, Ms. Goopser, this does not pass what I call the FAR test. And the FAR test is the front page of the Arizona Republic. It's an acronym for that. And I cannot imagine spending $6 million, spending $750,000 a year in operating and ever getting it up to pay that back. Plus the fact we had a meeting just before this where we said we're looking for money to improve developmental education and to improve our programs. And this doesn't do anything for that. And I just don't think that this is a feasible project. I think that the location is very poor. And and I'm wondering, how do we come up with these grants? Do we go out looking for them or do they come looking for us? How did we decide to come up with an idea to spend $3 million of our money on this project?
Ms. Gupser, how did you find the money?
And whatever you did, right?
Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, and members of the board. The grant was found, they came to us. The EDA was an investor in the CEI. It's their most successful.
Can you, Ms. Gupser, can you
Yes.
spell out the acronyms?
Yes,
please?
I apologize. Center for Entrepreneurial Innovation. It's the incubator that's currently on the campus of Gateway. The EDA was at a 50%.
The EDA, would you spell out all acronyms, please?
Yes, I apologize again. Economic Development Administration was a key funder in the Center for Entrepreneurial Innovation. It is the most successful project that they've funded in the state of Arizona. And when they heard about this Makerspace initiative and what it can do for workforce development and workforce training and economic development in our state, they came to us and said, please apply, we want to fund it.
Mr. Heap.
I always appreciate innovations and entrepreneurialism and jumping out with this project. But at the same time, what's the competition look like? We have MECTech, we have East Mech. They're all building new facilities and doing similar projects. West Mech is this week is putting a forecast meeting together showing the past and the future, and putting a bond issue into putting things together for technology. That's one. Two is, will you be pulling away a lot of this technology that's sitting in the community colleges now? Will this lower our cost per square foot cost by putting in this equipment into one facility rather than having STEM programs throughout the school, the whole complex?
Mr. Gutierrez, Mr. Heap, members of the board, what we are proposing to construct here does not compete with West Mech facilities. West Mech facilities are essentially high school programs that are technology in nature. What we're proposing here is a facility to be used. In fact, we could possibly partner with West Mech. We currently partner with West Mech now in some of our programs at Gateway. We could partner with them, and their students could actually come and use this facility. This is really a if you think of a gym membership where you can walk in and use any tool in that gym, this is a very similar setup. As a student, as an entrepreneur, as a hacker, as anyone who wants to come in and experiment, learn, you can come in and we will have open access to the tools that are available in there. So we're not in competition with West Mech. As far as the square footage goes, we are not looking to replace all STEM projects across the district. This is to enhance what the district already has, including what we have at Gateway. We're talking about 22,000 square feet of space. I haven't added up all of the STEM-related spaces across the district, but I just don't even think that we would even attempt that.
Okay. And last but not least, the Economic Development Organization of Innovation that has all this money available. Is it a private enterprise, or is this another government institution that's redistributing funds to this project?
It's a federal government institution that's redistributing funds.
Ms. Livingston.
Just real quick. First of all, thank you for bringing this to our attention. It hypothetically and hopefully in reality someday, it sounds like a fabulous project. Couple concerns I have. One, as we just heard in the last meeting, I am concerned we might be pulling from Dev Ed, which I don't think we can right now. Maybe we're not, maybe we won't. But the monies in Dev Ed need to be there and stronger than ever for at least a few more years. That being said, and that's just something I'll watch, how much would it cost? And maybe the initial grant covers this. I'm not talking about the building or parking spaces or anything of the sort, but how much would it cost to get the project started once all the glitter is done and we figure out how much parking costs? How much would it cost to start the program itself? And I realize you have a grant for what, about 3 million total?
Yes, Mrs. Livingston, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Yes, we have a $3 million matching grant that matches an additional $1 million we've raised from our community partners. If we did it without the building, just the program, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question on it.
Once let's say the building is all good,
It's fine.
It's done, asbestos is clean, whatever it's, the rugs are done, whatever needs to be done, we've got our parking spaces, we're good to go. All the stuff that needs to go in it to create the program, how much would that cost?
That is about the $750,000 that we're looking at from ASU.
That's all.
For the model we've established, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that is, I should clarify too, that is our equipment investment. I will defer to Tony if he has anything else to add just for accuracy.
Mr. President, Mrs. Livingston, members of the board.
Vice President, would you identify yourself, please?
My name's Vice President Tony Asti. The annual operating cost of the facility is about $765,000. That would have the building open approximately 75 hours a week. Our anticipation is as revenues increase, then we would increase the amount of time that it was open. Based on some of the models that we have, probably 3 to 5 years for operating cost break even.
Okay, and that is, we believe, or it's a possibility that this grant will be a continuous grant?
Mrs. Livingston, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, the EDA grant is not a continuing grant. That's not how the Economic Development Administration funds programs. They specifically fund investments that are under their economic development initiatives supporting workforce development that are capital. So it's either building or equipment.
Okay, very good. But so our biggest cost in and lies is the building itself?
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Sarr.
Obviously, we want more information on this, especially the building. I think as we've talked here, we're all in favor of the program itself for the most part. But as we went, this is 4 or 5 years ago, coming back to us now, that we need to have the parties involved. I know the city of Phoenix has stopped the sale of it 5 or 6 years ago. We were having trouble selling it because it really has no value as a building. So I think that we need to get together as a board with you as well as the engineers that we're talking about what it takes to make that building inhabitable again, and whether or not this is really the best location. I'm talking about a building now, not the property itself maybe, but I just have real concerns that we're getting ourselves into a building that, even though I love engineers, but sometimes they take, while that's, ideas. So we have to make sure that as a board that we're on board with what we're going to do here in the future.
Let me, President Gonzalez and Vice President Gupta, let me make a couple of suggestions. Sure. One of them is that there is a great deal of concern about the specific building. And you've mentioned engineering reports, et cetera. I think that it would be very helpful to us in making a final determination if we are assured by those engineering reports that the kind of transformation you are hoping for and describing to us can be in fact achieved at a reasonable price. I think that is a great concern. Frankly, the stability of this building is of great concern. Secondly, the other thing I'd like to mention to the board, I happen to live, I don't know, a few blocks from here. I am one of those downtown people that people are afraid of at night. Mexicans walking around in the inner city. But let me tell you the following. The transformation that has occurred in the inner city in the last 5 years is absolutely astounding. The kind of gentrification, I don't say that admiringly, that is taking place in the central city is astounding. So this is for many of you, it may be a very different place than you recall if you haven't visited recently. The amount of construction of new housing, particularly new multi-residence housing, is astounding. Much of that is intended to attract millennials and young folks who will certainly gravitate to this kind of facility. But I think there are significant questions about this particular building. There are also significant questions about the parking. The city, in fact, has a number of parking facilities around this building, easily available. You can walk down the street a block or so away, or less so even. But the fact is, Mr. McGrath is right. If you park in one of those facilities, I happen to go to every one of our PIO's hearings because I have an interest in the outcome of that case. Nonetheless, I go to each one and I have to park near the courthouse at a city facility. It is not inexpensive. I mean, I can spend $16 on parking in a city facility in one day. And so I think Mrs. McGrath raises an excellent point. If you come back to us for a final approval, and I hope that you will, those questions have to be resolved. How much will parking cost? How much will it be available to us? And if the answer is that the city's going to give us $250,000 but charge us for parking, the city isn't giving us anything. And so let us answer those questions before this comes back to us for final approval.
Mr. President,
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you. I have one question that I'd like them to come back with the answer also. Mr. Asti said that it will take 3 to 5 years of operating costs in order to break even. Is that in order to break even with the $750,000 that we were told 2 weeks ago would be the operating cost? Is that the operating cost to get us break even with the $6 million investment? You don't have to answer now, but I definitely want to have firm figures. I don't want to hear we'll break even in 3 to 5 years. I want to see the numbers on paper. Thank you.
If there is no further discussion, thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. We appreciate your feedback, and we will have those answers for you.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is the Faculty Executive Council report. Dr. Robert Sosa.
I feel a little bit like invoking Monty Python because it's now for something completely different. President Gutierrez.
How much does this cost?
It's free. It's free.
Okay.
I'm off accountability. It's free. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor, members of CEC, and guests. I appreciate this opportunity to share the faculty's excitement with all of you. As we all know, over the last year, there has been a tremendous amount of churn in the district. As Dr. Dale would say, there's been a lot of churn. And at this point, the one thing that we are certain of is that we are in the midst of a dramatic transformation. We are living with a new normal. And while the specifics of this new condition are not fully defined, as a faculty, there is far more optimism than worry. Some of this optimism is a result of the strong faculty leadership at the colleges. And I'd like to take a moment to commend the leadership of our faculty senate presidents and our faculty chairs. While their work is not always highly visible, They do a fantastic job supporting students, faculty, and their colleges. They know the unique cultures of their communities, and they have done a remarkable job supporting their faculties and engaging this era of change with an attitude of constructive partnership and problem solving. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our college presidents, even all of the interims, the vice presidents, interims included, and all the classified staff. They too have been essential partners as we have developed a deepened commitment to shared governance. Without the support and critical engagement of our administrative and staff partners, we would neither have the successes that we do, nor would we have the capacity to take advantage of this era of change. Our faculty, administrative, and staff partners have made great strides. We are at a place where the us versus them binary is nearly eclipsed. Our shared governance practices are founded on an awareness that when we work together in the interest of student success, we can overcome all the challenges and uncertainty in which the district is currently enmeshed. This context of a collaboration has not occurred by chance. As already mentioned, it is in part a response to the deliberate choice of both faculty and our college's leadership. This context is also a direct result of the tenor set by our new chancellor. To the governing board, we say thank you. We commend the wisdom and foresight you exhibited when Dr. Maria Harper Marinick was made our new chancellor. And we also appreciate the support that you show her as she charts a new course for our district. Finally, Dr. Harper Marinick, while much remains to be clarified, we are grateful for the work that you have engaged in since your hire, the outreach to our community partners, the radical new vision for our system, and all the energy that this has introduced into Maricopa is having a positive impact. As a district, we have been through a challenging decade. Dr. Glasper kept the ship steady and assured our health during this time. You, however, have charged us with creating a new direction and creating a framework, I lost my place, for risk-taking. I know I was building up to a great crescendo there and I lose my place, right? I'll start over. You, however, have charged us with
Not from the beginning.
Okay, well, no. I know. I want to be out of here early too. Have created a framework for risk-taking and exploration that hasn't been possible in recent years. And as a faculty, we welcome this. We embrace this challenge and are excited to continue the partnerships with our college leadership and with you to ensure that Maricopa continues to improve and serve our communities more effectively. As a faculty, we never lose sight of the fact our primary work is to improve the lives of our students. And we are grateful for this time of change and for the new opportunities to do this better. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa. Dr. Sosa, any questions or discussion? Thank you, sir. The Adjunct Faculty Association report, Gail Haas.
Hello. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, members of the CEC, and guests. I'm Patricia Gail Haas, the AFA president, Faculty Association. Last month I reported to you the goals of the AFA for this year, and I wanted to tell you about some of the new accomplishments in just the past month. The fresh efforts at communication, cooperation, community, and collegiality. In communication, our adjunct network is almost entirely based on email. So I was getting a lot of requests of the same type of response. So we created a bank on the Google Drive where all emails will be stored so the adjuncts can access those and go back and not have to search through all their emails to find this form or that conference or different policy responses. So far that's a little thing, but it's been very helpful. Several schools, including Paradise and Estrella, are now looping adjuncts into their respective centers for teaching and learning newsletters. And some include Blogspace at CGC. The adjunct rep has been given some space on the president's newsletter. And several reps are responsible for sending out their CTL newsletters. Cooperation, new, I'm real excited about this one, new at South Mountain. The representative Rick Jackson is now meeting with the CTL on a weekly basis, set up a weekly appointment to cooperate with them, so that's new. And the director of the CTL at South is very supportive, so I'm really happy about that working relationship that's just budding. And this is certain to bear fruit in the more student success at South. They already scored very high. I looked up the CESI reports one time and I was impressed with their student success. So I'm really excited that that's going together. The reps are also calendaring with CTLs and school administrators to schedule market adjunct related events, and also to go ahead and go a year out and help some stability in the scheduling. And Paradise Valley published even a year-long save the dates, and that was going to help adjuncts be prepared and be able to plan. And then they're meeting weekly to monitor those and change them. As far as community, at Harry Nodine, the rep at Glendale, and NOA Peterson, the rep from Australia, made a cooperative town hall. And that was last week, Adjunct Town Hall hosted at Glendale. School leadership, including interim president Teresa Leberis, were there to support the adjuncts. And there's interesting questions and to be able to respond. And it wasn't a large turnout, but it's a starting point. And people were able to vent a little bit, ask some questions. And several things are addressable. The issues that they brought up can be addressed. At Chandler Gilbert, Kim Barola is hosting a reunion for brand new adjuncts. So I think this is a clever idea because when you wait a month into your teaching, you have a lot more questions than you did the first day. So this might be a good practice. And she's also planning lunch and learns through the CTLs. People will be able to bring in their food and sit and cooperate and work together. I cannot keep up with some schools. At Australia, anyway, you can't keep up with anyway, has new monthly meetings with the Dean of Instructional Support and the CTL Director and the Campus Professional Learning Committee. And she's also on the Council for Curriculum Process and Design Committee. And in her spare time, she's writing in the President's newsletter and took office hours and started a potluck meet and greet. So if that's not enough, she conducted this month a panel discussion on student engagement and project-based learning. And this was both research and informative for adjuncts. An example of adjunct initiatives that are elevating the level of education. And collegiality at Phoenix, Michael Zerelnik is forming a cooperative relationship with the FA and working at how we can work together for mutual benefit and form. This has been in the works for a while, but Michael's been working on this over at Phoenix. And then this is my favorite, under Presidential Initiative over at Paradise. Susan Bonnell is working with the division chairs to host quarterly events, which will include adjuncts. Thank you, Dr. Dale. The goal is to foster divisional growth. They have started quarterly check-in luncheons with division chairs in liaison with the CTL and Organizational Development Office. So anonymous concerns as well as informational concerns sessions will occur at these events that will be midterm. I have not been around Maricopa very long, but I believe we're looking at unprecedented cooperation for adjuncts in the nation's largest district. It's hard to move a big machine like this one, but we are. We're all under the pressure of change, but I want to let you know that most of the change is good. And I thank everyone involved for their care and concern.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Can you, by the way, before you leave, tell us what is CTL?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Center for Teaching and Learning. Every school has
I just remind everyone who's going to speak to please spell out, don't use acronyms. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez, I have a question for
Mr. Grass.
Thank you. You mentioned at the first of your talk that there are two schools that are including the adjuncts in some kind of a communication thing. I would suggest that since the adjuncts are such a large part of Maricopa, that all of the school presidents would include the adjuncts in this communication. It sounded to me like it was something that you felt was important to them. And since we make.
Mrs. McGrath, Dr. Gutierrez, and members of the board, most of the presidents delegate a cooperation, or they might meet with the adjunct rep themselves. This just takes place in different structures on each campus. I found myself that the presidents that I worked with were most helpful in explaining to me the systems. And I'd come into their office with crazy questions, and they would explain to me the way things worked. And it was extremely helpful to me as a rep. And I think we made a lot of progress because I had that accurate information from the horse's mouth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Haas, apparently I misunderstood. I thought that there was a newsletter or a president's letter or a president's monthly report or something that was being circulated to the adjuncts at 2 schools, and I was talking about perhaps circulating it from all the schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Emeritus awards and recognitions. President Hassan.
Yes, thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board, chancellors, CEC, and guests. I'd like to ask Dean Carol Axe to please come forward to the podium to conduct the emeritus distinction on behalf of Mesa Community College.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, governing board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, college presidents, and guests. I am Carol Axe, Dean of Instruction at Mesa Community College, and it is my honor to present to you 2 faculty members for emeritus status. The first one is Bonnie Black. Bonnie is not able to be here this evening, so I'd like to say a few words about her. Bonnie was an instructor in the Administration of Justice Department for 20 years. Her dedication to her students, her involvement in the classroom was always outstanding. But a couple of things really made an impression on me because I've known Bonnie for a very long time also. So Bonnie was very instrumental in e-learning. In fact, she was kind of a pioneer at Mesa, and she was very involved with our committee on campus. She was director of the e-learning committee. She became very engaged in Quality Matters, got involved with the district along those lines, and so was really a pioneer. She created the online programs for the Administration of Justice programs. So that was a real milestone for her. Another thing that she did is she was a grant earner. She had over $1 million in a grant, and it was from an act was violence against women, and so it was a training opportunity. So those are some things that were very important, I think, for faculty outside of actual classroom instruction. And our second person is Dr. Joe Stye, and Joe is here. So Joe, I'd like to invite you to come up while I say a few words about you. So Joe and I go back a long time. Joe and I started teaching at Mesa Community College in the math department in the 80s, so we have known each other very, very long. And so as I thought about Joe and what I was going to say, there are 3 things that come to mind. And one of them is her great appreciation for the power of mathematics. And she instilled that in every one of her students, whether it be through how they talked about mathematics, how they wrote about mathematics, how they problem solved. And she also was an author of textbooks, created courses, and so students were real winners if they were in a class of Joe's. And the second thing that I think about is that she was a pioneer. And in the 90s, Joe got a little restless, and she said, you know, there's this online learning thing going on, and there isn't anything out there that's good for mathematics. And she said, there just aren't symbols in the software. So she went looking, and she found something called Derive, and she offered the first calculus class at Mesa Community College. And the third thing, and maybe the most important, is her great desire to help people. Besides in the classroom, Joe has become very instrumental with foster kids that graduate when they're 18. They graduate out of the foster system. So she has been working on that for the last couple of years and still continues to do so. So Joe, very deserving.
Thank you. I've been asked not to speak for very long.
everyone on the board, again, I want to thank you for the hours and hours that you dedicate to this. I realize that it's volunteer, and thank you for all of these years. I came to the district in 1977. I taught at university before that, so I have been doing this for a long time. Mr. Burke and I have spent a lot of time teaching together as well, working on Senate and that sort of thing. Tonight, people keep talking about change, that it is imminent, that it is here, that it is upon us, that it is running away with us, or we are running to catch up with it. And it is, and it always has been. And you can imagine how much I would have seen, certainly since coming in the district in 1977, and where we are today, and thank goodness we have changed or we would be dead. And so some change is good, most change is something that we can embrace and we can look for. There's an old saying that our job is not just to raise good kids, but to raise kids to be excellent adults. And I think that has never changed, never will change. Our goals aren't going to change. Our mission isn't going to change. But it is to take our young people, old people, millennial people, from where they are to where they can be as adults, to fulfill their lives, to be good citizens, to be challenged, to be challenging, to be critical thinkers, to be looking out and know they can do things. And that's never going to change. Our job is always going to be here, because that's going to always be something that we have to offer. Thank you again for all of this. Many wonderful years.
Dr. Steig, thank you for all those years at the college. And thank you in particular for this, for the volunteer work you do with foster kids at that moment of transition when so many of them feel abandoned. That's a very tough time for those kids, and it's very important that you have been there and continue to be there, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Mesa Community College, I will just put a plug, is quite active in the work that they're doing, and I'm continuing my work connected through that for programs that they're developing. Thank
Good.
you. It's very needed. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez, may I ask
Yes,
Jill to stay?
Chancellor.
So something that was not said that I do know about her, and I know how developmental education is so important to our board, and I think something that we need to thank her and celebrate is she was instrumental in bringing changes to developmental math. And when people were not even thinking about we need to reform, we need to go in a whole new direction, she was one that I knew would be at least calling me or sending emails to say we need to do something different. So now that you are moving on, even though she told me she's staying at the college, I just want to say thank you for your leadership among the mathematics faculty members for all the work that you have done to reform developmental math.
Thank you, Dr. Steig. We are at Citizens Interim. We have no requests to speak. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? If not, let us move on to the Chancellor's report. Dr. Harper-Marinick.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Thank you, Robert Sosa and faculty members for your support. And since he mentioned how busy I have been in meetings in the community, people do ask me about where my time is going. I thought I would let the board know that in the 5 months, I guess, that I've been the chancellor, I have met with many in the business community, nonprofit community, partners in higher education, K-12 superintendents. I have been interviewed 16 times by radio stations, television stations, newspapers, and publications, local and national. I have spoken 30 times at events, locally and nationally. I had a goal that I would go to every college and meet with the president and their leadership team. And so I gave myself 1 month, and I actually accomplished that on the last day of the 30 days that I gave myself. I have attended the Faculty Senate retreat in the summer. Thank you for generously allowing me an hour. I took every second of that hour. I have met with members of the community to share our vision and direction. I believe tomorrow, Wednesday, I have a forum with students from across the district who will come for an open conversation with the chancellor about direction, their questions, and their concerns. I have asked the new leadership of the Classified Staff Council to plan similar events with the rest of the employee groups, and I am looking forward to having that opportunity to do so. But I also wanted to share tonight about a new initiative in the state of Arizona that is important to the Maricopa colleges. On September 16th, Governor Ducey announced that the state of Arizona is adopting a goal of achieving 60% of certificates, associates, and bachelor's degrees for our adult population, defined as individuals between the ages of 24 and 65, and that goal will be achieved by the year 2030, based on the baseline for now. The Achieve 60 AZ, which is the name that we have given it, has 4 main strategies. One is strengthening the K-12 pipeline, and the goal is to increase college readiness and high school graduation rates. The second one is completing credentials, and the goal is to implement policies to make it easier for Arizonans to finish their certificates or college degrees. Third one is increasing access. Goal is to raise awareness about options beyond high school and make them more affordable for all students. And the fourth one is aligning workforce needs. The goal is to engage businesses, governments, and educators to identify and close the skills gap. There are 60 partners in what we're calling the Alliance that came together to do this work. The stakeholders, the 60 partners in the Alliance, have identified 3 individuals to become the transition directors, is the title. And those individuals are Ms. Eileen Klein, who is the president of the Arizona Board of Regents, Mr. Rich Nickel, who is the president and CEO of College Success Arizona, and Maria Harper-Marinick, your chancellor. Our charge by the stakeholders is, during the transition, is to help guide the organization through that transition phase, provide leadership as the Alliance determines the ongoing role of Achieve 60 AZ, and to determine the strategies that will help support. We have established what is called a collaborative fund at the Arizona Community Foundation. The Community Foundation will be the fiduciary vehicle for the organization to make sure that we have funds to plan how we move forward. And I will announce that the Helios Foundation has pledged $100,000 towards the planning phase of Achieve 60 AZ. So as this work moves forward, as I mentioned to Governor Ducey, the goal of 60% for the state of Arizona cannot be achieved unless the community colleges are involved and we do the work that we know we can do on behalf of everyone at the state. So as the Achieve 60 AZ moves forward, I will provide regular updates for our governing board. If you have any questions, I will be glad to respond to those.
Thank you, Chancellor. Are there any questions, comments? Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Harper-Marinick, this sounds like a wonderful idea. And where is the Arizona Community Foundation going to get their funding? Is it coming from donations from individuals or part of the education money from the state or what?
Good question, Mrs. McGrath, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. The initial funding is for the planning phase is $100,000 from the Helios Foundation. There will be an application submitted to the Lumina Foundation for potentially another $100,000 as matching funds. And then the group involved, which is the 60 Alliance partners, and I can send you the link with all the detailed information, includes not only educational institutions like Maricopa, but business CEOs and nonprofits and philanthropic community. There's lots of people involved. So part of the goal is to raise funds to get the work done, and we're hoping that also results in perhaps policy changes and funding to the institutions involved, especially those of us who will be doing the work, to make sure that the 60% of the adults in Arizona are college educated and ready for the workforce.
Further discussion? Chancellor, you're taking too much time off.
I think I am.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, and thank you, members of the board.
The next item is the approval of the order of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I so move.
I second it.
Mr. Gutierrez, I
It's
think
been moved and seconded. The report will follow, even though you put it in the wrong place. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. What is our report? Miss Chris Bliss, here you are. Employee and constituency group reports. Chris Bliss, I knew. I did not forget you.
Tried to sit in the front row so that I could be, visible. So thank you for remembering me. Thank you for remembering me. My name is Chris Bliss, and I am the Classified Staff Council President. The Classified Staff Council officers would like to take this opportunity to affirm the Classified Staff Council's commitment to these tenets: consistency, respect, growth, inclusiveness, and clear communication. As a council, we have developed ground rules which we all agree to uphold at our council meetings. We seek to convey respect, honor the time, ideas, and values of others, practice self-awareness, seek unity, and advocate for our constituents through interests. The council will conduct business using a consensus-based approach, which creates an environment where all participants are on equal footing and all voices are heard and respected. We fully expect this model will be contagious and spread through the district as the council gains momentum and begins increasing communication efforts with our constituents. In keeping with the leadership model adopted by the district, as classified staff representatives, the officers and all the council members intend to conduct themselves in a manner that models the way and inspires trust throughout the Maricopa Community College District. We are excited to spearhead a culture shift and ask for your support as we embark on this exciting journey. We would like to take this opportunity to also share with you items we have been working on since the council was formed. We are transitioning duties previously performed by the One Maricopa Workforce Committee to the officers and the council. The topics we are transitioning include communication, technology needs, professional growth administration, meeting facilitation needs, etc. The officers are in the process of moving from their respective campuses to a co-located space. This will allow us to collaborate more effectively on key topics such as collaborative policy development, professional growth, and personnel issues. We are also working to get the Classified Staff Council website updated so we can share information with our constituents. In addition to the website, we intend to create an easily accessible, simple to use method for our constituents to communicate with the officers and the council. We feel the Classified Staff Council is making small yet significant strides in building the framework for a new Maricopa. We are optimistic and hopeful that all facets of the organization will embrace and promote this movement towards inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. We are appreciative of your time.
Thank you, Ms. Bliss.
Thank you.
We should all thank Ms. Smith for pointing out my error. And that's why she gets the big bucks, says Ms. McGrath, who apparently is willing to talk about a raise. Hey. All right. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's moved and seconded. To approve the consent agenda, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. The non-consent agenda, item 17, Chancellor, it's the approval of the settlement agreement Reyes claim.
Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, the governing board has been apprised of the history of this matter and through a privileged communication and submitted to you by our interim general counsel, Margaret McConnell.
This matter has been before us in a privileged communication. It is the settlement of the Reyes claim. Is there any discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the settlement agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Business services, 18.1, approving the architecture engineering for Building C at Phoenix College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, governing board members, the recommendation is that the governing board approve the selection of Holly Street Studios to provide architectural and engineering consulting services for the C building remodel at Phoenix College at a fee not to exceed $1,950,000, including reimbursable expenses. The Building C remodeling project will transform the old three-story general studies, science and occupational facility built in 1969 into a modern teaching facility for chemistry and physical sciences.
You've heard the description. The item was discussed in detail in our agenda meeting. Is there any discussion? If not, is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Let the record show Ms. McGrath has voted no. 18.2, to approve the proposed course fee changes for 2016-2017. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, governing board members, this is a recommendation to approve various course fee changes. Part of our practice is that the board must approve any fee increases, decreases, elimination, or the establishment of fees. We did present this to the board at agenda review, and since that time, we've attached a much shorter list of requests. The fees included here are for new courses only, or if a fee was to obtain course materials at a lower cost than what a student could buy them in the bookstore, say a lower cost for digital materials, anything that would, an act that would save the student money, or for a reduction or elimination of fees. So that's what's included at this time.
Ms. Murphy, therefore, you have removed from our consideration a number of items that we questioned during the agenda review.
Mr. Gutierrez, governing board members, yes, that is correct.
And to those items, will they come back before us at a future time?
Mr. Gutierrez, governing board members, hopeful that we look at the course fee balances and the whole course fee process before such time as we would come back to you with another course fee request.
The request we made at the time, it was a long discussion, but one of the requests we made at the time is clarification of how a course fee is imposed and what uses for that course fee, to assure this board that a course fee was not being used for purposes other than the specific purpose of paying for that particular fee, that it was not being used for any ancillary reason, and we would like to see the policy related to that. So this item if approved today, I want to stress to you and to the Chancellor, does not exhaust the discussion on course fees. We expect that relatively soon you will come back on the remainder of those fees and on the policy that's attached to fees for the future.
Yes, Mr. Gutierrez, that is the plan.
Any
Mr.
other
Gutierrez.
discussion? Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. We will also share with you our revised process for how fees can be selected and for what purposes that the resources can be used. We are in the process of completing that, and once we have that finalized, we'll share with the board.
Thank you, Chancellor. Any other questions or discussions? If not, is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Information items, first readings, the review of employment. Ms. Basil, would you care to comment?
President Gutierrez, member of the governing board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of the CEC and guests, Barbara Basil, Associate Vice Chancellor for Human Resources. I'm pleased to present the employment actions for the month of October 2016. For this reporting period, there were 39 separations and a total of 177 hires. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions? Discussion? If not, let us proceed forward to business services, the review budget analyst report, Fund 1. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, governing board members, provided to you is the budget analysis report for the first 2 months of the fiscal year, that's July and August. Through that time, we have expended about $74.8 million. Revenues received are $92.8 million. We will maintain the mandatory 8% stability balance that's mandated by board policy. And we really expect no substantial deviations from the budget at this time.
Discussion? Questions? If not, let us go to community linkage, governing board reports. Mr. Burke.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, during the month of September, I attended an Audit and Finance Committee meeting, an AADGB meeting, and the Governance Institute on Student Success, the latter a 3-day event that allowed in-depth discussion among board members and administrators about student success issues. I enjoyed attending the opening of the Paradise Valley Entrepreneurial Center, a program housed in the business department, but which has collaboration among several other departments whose students are seeking to turn a skill into a business. As a member of the Legal Counsel Screening Committee, I spent a day interviewing several candidates for the legal counsel position, and the committee was able to complete its work by submitting candidates to the Chancellor for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Sarr.
We're looking forward to traveling to New Orleans next week for the ACCT annual conference, and amongst the activities going on there, our Chancellor will be there, and will be a panel member as well as several of us as well. So it's nice to be known for something as big as that conference is. I also want to say that we just finished up the ASBA, which is the Arizona School Board Association's legal conference. I wasn't able to attend, but I have talked to several people who came back with some very good information on new laws and so forth. That also affect us, so I hope that we will continue to work with them on that regard. I too am on the committee to make a recommendation to the Chancellor for a new legal counsel, and it's going very well. As Mr. Burke said, we have submitted the final candidates to the Chancellor and the board, and we look forward to making that decision very shortly.
Ms. Haber.
Yes, I would like to thank Edgar Ramirez and his team for having made it possible for me to attend not only the board meetings, but also the Student Success Institute. It's meant a great deal to me to be able to stay on top of everything, and he and his team made it possible through technology. Thank you.
Ms. Livingston.
No report.
Mr. Heap.
This last month has been pretty much of a startup program, and so we went to the Budget and Finance Committee. The Arizona North Valley Partnership, which was met a lot of great people from Tucson, and they're very excited about the joint venture with us. Also, the entrepreneurial program. Paul, how can I say it? Pulled such great enthusiasm from not only the teachers but also from all the students. We met in a very crowded room, which said was going to be the startup room, and that really says it all. It's students and teachers going out into the marketplace. So we're looking forward to watching this progress. So thank you.
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you. I had the great pleasure of attending the celebration of the collaboration of the University of Arizona and the Maricopa County Community College District, held up at Paradise Valley Community College, where they have a large office and teaching facility, and it was very pleasurable to eat their food, take their souvenirs. As a Sun Devil, I loved it. Thank you.
My report is that since the last meeting, I have been in Italy. I've been in medieval villages, most of the time in Rome. Had a great time. I didn't get near a community college, and not even close. I'm proud to report, and there you are. Is there any other business before the board? If not, there is an executive session to follow the board, to follow this session downstairs in our regular executive session meeting room.
The ice box.
The ice box. If there's no further discussion, this meeting stands adjourned.